Have you ever dreamed of just packing a bag and heading off on your own adventure? No compromises, no obligations, just you and the world. I just got back from a solo trip to New York City, and let me tell you, it was freeing and invigorating. If you're a woman over 50 and have been toying with the idea of solo travel, I want to share my thoughts about this trip and why solo travel at this stage is not only possible, it's powerful. I'll tell you about all the things that went right, then the one thing that didn't. Let me take you back just to a few days ago. I was walking through Central Park, sun shining, a light breeze, and the sounds of New York City swirling around me. It was my third solo trip to the city, and every time I just let myself wander with no tight agenda. No one waiting on me, and that freedom is absolutely exhilarating. I'm 53 years old, and traveling alone at this stage of life feels different than it would have at 23. Back then, I might have been worried about what others thought, worried about looking lonely or unsure of where to go, and now I embrace it. I listen to my own rhythms and follow my curiosity instead of a checklist. One day I spent hours at the Frick and the next day at the Morgan Library just because I felt like being surrounded by books and art. Another day I made my way across Central Park from east to west just to take the scenic route. No rush, no pressure. That's the beauty of solo travel. You get to say yes to whatever you want to. And then there was an off-Broadway play, All the Beauty in the World, based on the book by Patrick Bringley. Sitting there in the theater watching this beautiful, heartfelt story about grief, art, and healing, I felt so fulfilled. And I was so glad I didn't have to check with anyone else before deciding to go. It was just something I wanted to experience. That's the magic. You're not just sightseeing, you're reconnecting with yourself. Solo travel at 50 plus isn't about escape, it's about expansion. You finally get to ask yourself, what do I want to experience? And then actually follow through on it. You get to build a relationship with yourself that's rooted in trust and curiosity. And you don't have to go to the other side of the world to feel this. You just have to take that first step away from your usual routine. For me, New York gave me that. A week where I remembered how joyful it is to just be with yourself and exploring. There are so many unique advantages to traveling solo in your 50s. You often have more time and flexibility. Maybe the kids are grown or your career has shifted. You're also more financially stable than you were in your 20s and far more sure of who you are and what you like. After spending decades caring for others, whether that's kids, family, or running a business, there's something deeply rewarding about prioritizing your own interests. Solo travel becomes a way to reclaim that part of yourself that may have been put on the back burner. And there's something deeply accomplishing about navigating a big city solo, figuring out the subway, or simply choosing how you want to spend your day. It reminds you just how capable, resilient, and adventurous you really are. Let's talk about one of the most exciting parts about solo travel, planning your adventure. And trust me, planning it makes all the difference. The key is to choose destinations that genuinely light you up, not places someone else thinks you should visit, but places that speak to you. For me, New York City is always calling. I love its energy, the culture, the history, and the chance to get lost in a museum or discover a cozy cafe on a side street. So I planned my trip around what I love. Museums like the Met, the Frick, and the Morgan Library, walking through parks like Central Park, the High Line, and Little Island, and yes, good coffee shops and plays. When planning your solo trip, I recommend starting with what you're most excited about doing. Ask yourself, do I want to be surrounded by art and culture? Do I want nature and quiet? Or is it food, history, or a mix of everything? From there, I look at a few key things. I like walkability and public transportation. I want to be able to get around easily, especially without a car. New York is great for that, but so are other cities like Boston or Paris or even smaller towns with good transit. Also, accessibility to what I want to do. I check maps to make sure I'm not staying on the opposite end of everything I want to explore. That way, I'm not spending half my day commuting. Safety and comfort in accommodations is a big thing. I want to feel safe where I'm staying, especially since I'm returning there alone at the end of each day. I read reviews carefully and look at photos and even check Google Street View for a feel of the area. And if you're someone who likes to cook or has dietary needs like I do, make sure your place has what you need, like a kitchenette or a nearby grocery option. It really adds to your sense of freedom when you can take care of yourself easily. Also, don't overschedule. Leave room for serendipity. Some of my favorite moments in New York City came from spontaneous detours, like finding an adorable coffee shop on my way to Little Island, and a jazz duet in Madison Square Park that I sat and listened to one evening, which also happened to be next to a dog park, so I watched the dogs while I was missing my dog Louie. Solo travel gives you the freedom to do exactly what you want when you want. Planning well simply clears the path for more joy, more ease, and more discovery. Now let me tell you about the one thing on this trip that didn't go quite as I had planned, my hotel. Normally, I love staying in an Airbnb, mainly because I have celiac disease and I like having a kitchen where I can safely cook. But for a while now, New York has a 30-day minimum on Airbnbs, and the hotel that I usually stayed at had significantly raised their prices. So I went for a hotel that had a kitchenette that I hadn't stayed in. It had solid reviews, it was reasonably priced, and even had a balcony with courtyard views. Sounds great, right? Well, the courtyard views was actually a loud concrete space jammed between tall buildings filled with massive HVAC units that ran all the time. Not exactly peaceful. And those courtyard facing views, they were facing windows, and I could see into at least 20 other windows, and I'm pretty sure they could see into mine. I had to keep the curtains shut the entire time. Now, maybe I'm strange, but I really love being able to see outside. I like natural light, I like people watching, and I like knowing what the weather's doing. Instead, I felt like I was in a bunker. It didn't ruin my trip, I still had a fantastic time, but it reminded me how much my environment affects my experience. I want my space to feel good, even if I'm not spending that much time there. Do you feel the same way? Are your accommodations really important when you travel? Or am I the only one like this? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how many of you need sunlight and a view to feel at ease. Next time, I'll definitely choose a different spot. But hey, that's part of solo travel. You live, you learn, and sometimes you laugh about it later. Let's talk about something every solo travel, especially women, thinks about: safety. Now, I'll be honest, when I first started traveling alone, safety was one of my biggest concerns. And it's valid. But what I've learned is this: most places are a lot safer than we give them credit for, especially when you use a bit of common sense and stay aware of your surroundings. In New York, I walked a lot. I used the subway and explored neighborhoods I had never been to before. But I stayed smart about it. I avoided isolated streets. I kept my bag zipped and close to my body. I used my phone to navigate, but I also looked around regularly because walking around glued to your screen makes you an easy target anywhere. I don't stay out late, but if I did, I would choose to use the Curb app to get a yellow cab to come to me and pick me up over walking or even taking an Uber. And one of my biggest safety tools is staying connected. I make a habit of texting my kids or close friends with little updates like headed to the Met now, or just saw a great show and on my way back to the hotel, and then text them when I arrive. It's a simple way to feel supported and let someone know where you are. Also, trust your gut. If something feels off, whether it's a street or a situation or even a person, you don't need a reason to walk away. You've lived enough life to know that your instincts matter. Just don't second guess them. The more you travel solo, the more confident and capable you feel. You start realizing you can handle more than you thought. That confidence becomes your best protection. So, yes, safety matters, but fear doesn't have to stop you. With the right mindset and a few smart habits, you can travel solo with confidence and peace of mind. If you're watching this and thinking, I'd love to travel solo, but I don't know if I could actually do it, you're not alone. That was me too. The first time I considered traveling on my own, I had all the usual fears. What if I get lost? What if I feel lonely? What if something goes wrong? But here's what I've learned. Those what ifs are usually just fear in disguise. And the antidote to fear is action, starting small and building confidence one step at a time. You don't have to jump into a 2-week solo trip to Europe. Start with a weekend getaway to a nearby city. Book a day tour by yourself. Go to lunch alone and sit by the window. You'd be amazed how empowering all of these small experiences can be. And the benefits go way beyond just having a great trip. Solo travel builds confidence. You learn to trust your instincts, solve problems on the fly, and navigate unfamiliar situations. And that spills over into every part of your life. It's also good for your mental well being. Taking a break from your usual environment without having to manage anyone else's needs or moods can be incredibly restorative. You move at your own pace, rest when you want, and allow space for clarity and reflection. And it's great for your physical health too. I walked so much during my trip in New York. Solo travel helps you remember who you are even when no one else is watching. It reminds you that you're still growing, that you're still becoming, and still capable of writing new chapters. So what's stopping you? If this video lit a spark in you, I encourage you to follow it. Pick a place, start planning, let yourself imagine the possibility. And if you need help getting started, I've linked a few of my resources in my channel description. Planning tools and a solo travel checklist I put together. If I can do it, you absolutely can too. You don't have to wait for someone else's schedule to align with yours. The world is waiting. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up or share it with a friend and subscribe for more content. And if you've taken a solo trip or are planning one, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear about it.